Hi everyone, welcome to this next video. So in this one I'm just going to go through some of the basics of factorising. This is nothing to do with factorising in terms of quadratics, so I'm not going to be looking at how you'd factorise quadratics. If you want to look up that video there, I've done a video on that already, so you can have a little look at that. But this one is purely about just the basics of factorising. So first thing to understand is factorising means put into brackets. You're basically making it more simple. Okay, so in this case, this is not a quadratic. There's no x squared involved in it, no a value, b value, c value. As I say, if you look at the other video I've done on quadratics, it'll make that a bit clearer. So here what you're looking for is a number on the outside, or potentially a letter as well on the outside, and then your brackets. So you're looking here, what number goes into both? What is the highest common factor of 8 and 12? And you should be able to identify that 4 is the highest number that goes into both. Then what you're looking at is, how do I get 4 to 12x? Well, in order to get 4 to 12, I times it by 3. And then how do I get the x? Well, it's got to be multiplied by 3x. So 4 times by 3x gives me 12x. And then you're thinking, how do I get 4 to 8? Well, I times it by 2. Then if you want to double check yourself, you can expand the bracket. So 4 times 3x is 12x. And 4 times 2 is 8. So when I do that, I get the same answer there. So I know that this answer is correct. Okay, so that's your basics of factorising. Let's look at this next example. So same concept. What is the highest common factor of 12 and 16? So hopefully you can identify that 4 is the highest common factor. But what you notice now is that there is an x in both parts here. So because there is an x in both, the x has to come on the outside as well. How would I then get 4x to 16x squared? Well, I've got to times 4 by 4 to get 16, and to get the x squared, it's got to be multiplied by x as well. So 4 times 4 gives me 16, and x times x gives me the x squared. Then, how do I get 4x to 12x? Times by 3. Now, you don't put an x there, because if I was to put an x there, then this would make this part squared, because you'd be doing 4x times 3x, which would be 12x squared, and all I want is just a 12x. Let's look at the next example. So in this one, same thing, highest common factor first of all. What's the highest number that goes into 20 and into 30? So looking at the number first, and your answer is 10. So 10 is the highest value that goes into both, and we know that there is an x in both. But what you now need to do is, if there are two indices, you choose the lower indice. So 3, x to the power 3 is my lower indice. Then you're thinking to yourself, how do I get 10x to 30x? Well, I've got to times it by 3, but it's x cubed, and I want to make it x to the power 5. Remembering that when you are multiplying with indices, you add them. So this would become x to the power 2, because x to the power 3 times x to the power 2, add the 3 and the 2 together to get you 5. Then how do you get 10x cubed to 20x cubed? You times it by 2. Okay. Last couple, we'll go through them. Same thing, highest common factor. 3 is the highest number that's in both. But looking here now, there's an x and a y there, and there's also an x and a y there, which means I have to put x and y on the outside. How do I get 3xy to 9x squared y cubed? Well, I know I'm going to have to multiply by 3, and then to get x to x squared, times it by x, and to get y to y cubed, I'm going to have to multiply that by y squared, because remembering, that bit on the outside is effectively like a 1. So if I multiply that and that together, I would add those together to get my 3. But you don't need to put the 1 there. And then how do I get 3xy to 6xy? Well, I just multiply it by 2. Okay. Then the very last one here would only show up on higher, so you wouldn't need to worry about this too much if you were doing foundation. But this is a little bit more complicated. We're still looking. It's a very similar concept to what we've done here, but it just looks a bit different. So we're looking here at, again, highest common factor, 8 and 32. Well, 8 actually goes into both. So 8 has to go on the outside. But now what you're looking at is there is an x plus 4 there, and there is an x plus 4 there, which means x plus 4 has to go on the outside as well. From here, you're then, so that part is the same as me putting that 4x on the outside there effectively. It's a similar concept. Then you're saying to yourself, how do I get 8 brackets x plus 4 to 32 brackets x plus 4 all squared? Well, times 8 by 4 That's how I get 32. And x plus 4 squared means multiplied by itself. So this is really similar here. If I was to write this in a different way, if I said this question was 32x squared minus 8x, what you would do here is, using this information we've got up here, you'd say, right, well, 8 goes on the outside and there's an x in both. Then you would times it by 4x, and then 8x to minus 8x would be minus 1. Instead of just having an 8x on the outside, what I've now got is an 8 brackets x plus 4. So it's a similar concept, okay? So 8 brackets x plus 4 is a bit that's on the outside. To get that to this, I multiply it by 4, and then to get the x plus 4 squared, I've got to times that by itself. Then I'm saying to myself, how do I get 8 brackets x plus 4 to minus 8 brackets x plus 4? Well, I times it by minus 1. So your first step is to set it up like that, and then from there you leave the outside as it is, and then the bits inside we can expand, so that becomes 4x plus 16, and then you've still got the minus 1, so therefore you've got 8 brackets x plus 4, this becomes 4x, and then 16 minus 1, which is 15. So that is that factorised. Okay, so this first step is the more complex part. I appreciate that's a little bit harder to understand. You would only need to worry about that if you were on higher, but that's how you do your different styles of factorising. Okay, the only other additional one is factorising with quadratics, but as I say, if you watch a previous video I've done on that, if you're not sure on factorising quadratics. Hope you find that useful, hope it helped, and I'll see you all in the next video.